welcome to Tales from the Field. I was literally in the field when this situation happened. So today I want to talk a little bit about what happens when the horse is eating food while you're giving a massage, the pluses and minuses of it. Because listen, we can't control everything, so sometimes, you'll be given a massage when conditions aren't ideal. So let's talk a little bit about that. And, I'm going to mention, I can do a whole nother podcast on what I think is ideal, but let me go over it really quick and give you some reasons why I think the way I think. So ideally, and I've talked about this before, it would be a nice 72 degrees, the sun would be out, there'd be a waterfall in the back, and you'd be at liberty in a field somewhere with birds singing and, other wildlife walking through, okay? So that's ideally, but unrealistic for multiple reasons. So what I like to do is I like to massage in a paddock or pasture where they're most comfortable. Okay, and I'll normally have a halter on. If it's a smaller paddock, I will do it at liberty depending on the horse, because it's really cool to watch them kind of walk away and then come back when they're ready. So there's just a lot of benefits to having a lot of freedom, allowing them to have a lot of freedom. But generally I end up in a paddock, a good sized paddock, so they can kind of walk off and come back. Halter, lead rope's over the back. I don't even really hold on to it. I just have it in case, who knows why you'd need it. So that's kind of my ideal. Then one down from that is kind of like the stall. I try not to massage in stalls too much just because they can't move enough. They can't move. So if it's a really big like birthing stall, that's kind of nice. But generally stalls are a little bit small. They can't move around and put you on the spots they want you on. And then cross ties is my least favorite, but I will do them in cross ties sometimes. So there's always situations where you need different things. But ideally, I like a pasture with a halter and lead rope. So, what happened the other day is I was out massaging a horse in a paddock, and I had done this horse before. She's kind of young, so she moves around a lot, which is fine. That's why it's nice to do it in a paddock, so they can move around and you don't need to be squished up against a wall, or if they're not able to move enough, sometimes they can get a little claustrophobic. So we were out in the paddock. All the horses were super calm, standing around. They were just enjoying their day. And what happened is the feed guy came around the corner. Okay? So I was like, oh, I had to stop because, when the feed guy comes around, I think that's the only person they like more than me, to be honest with you. Feed guy comes around and they're like, they have full attention is on him. And she's young. She gets a little bit reactive sometimes. So I was like, I'm just going to give her full lead rope. And she kind of like walked around and started hopping around a little bit, which was fine. So I have two choices there. I can tell him to not feed her and I will put the food in when I'm done. And I do that most of the time. Or I can say, yeah, just throw the feed in here. So I told him to throw the feed in. And there were a couple reasons I did that. One, I had gotten through the hard part of the massage for her. I knew her neck, her face and neck and shoulders kind of get tight, and I had already gotten through that part, so I was on the hind end. And I had palpated the hind end already, and I knew that there wasn't a ton there. The muscles seemed nice, soft, and relaxed, and I could do the rest of the work with her eating food. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what happens when the pluses and minuses of them eating food. Well, the pluses right off the bat is that if there's a spot that that you have to work, that they aren't really going to want you to work, food is a great distraction. It's a great distraction. And that's exactly what it is. They're going to be paying attention to the food, and you're going to be able to get the work done that they maybe don't want you to do. So, example, I use little carrots with Chester. So Chester does not like his back feet touched. He has ton of anxiety, ton of stress for him. So whenever the farrier comes out, I have him do the front feet, and then I have a little container of carrots that I've cut up. And when he goes to do the back feet, I just start dispensing the carrots into his mouth, and it goes really, really well. Okay, so it's a great distraction, especially if they're food motivated, where you can get some work done that if they have their full attention on it, it could go a little bit worse. Okay, so it's a great distraction tool. And that's pretty much all it's good for, in my opinion. The downfalls of having horses eating while you're working on them is that you're losing almost all communication. And the communication that you are getting, a lot of the time, I don't feel like you can trust it. So, horse starts eating, and then they blow out. Was that a release, or was that alfalfa in their nose? I'm going to say it's alfalfa in their nose, because if you listen to horses eat, they blow out a lot, because that either dust or the little alfalfa flakes or whatever kind of get up in their nose. They move the food around in order to get the stuff they really want first, okay? And then they blow out because it goes up their nose. So I don't trust any blowouts. And, when you're working with stoic horses, their breathing is huge. Like, that's a huge indicator of how they're feeling about the work. So you can't trust that. They aren't going to lick and chew because they're already chewing. So you can't trust that. You can't see their eyes. All right. You'll find tight areas, and they might give you an indication of, like, with a twitch of the tail, or with they might kind of toss their head or something real quickly at you. But for those really stoic horses, they're just going to focus on the food. It's like you're giving them something else to focus on so that they don't actually need to have a reaction to the body work. So you're really limiting how much you can learn from them based off the cues that they give without even trying to give cues. So a lot of times I'm going off of their breathing, I'm going off of a flare of a nostril, I'm going off of their eyes when they kind of look back at me, or if they get tense, they tense up less when they eat because they're enjoying eating. So yeah, you're really limiting the amount of communication that you can have. They aren't going to have the releases, okay, because they're focused on that food and they're in the process of eating. So as far as communicating, you're really cutting yourself off from getting signs and cues of how effective your body work is, and then also like finding areas of tension. So you're kind of cutting yourself off there. Positives are, well, if you already kind of know where the tension is and you can go off of feel, or if you have taken care of the areas of tension and now you're just kind of going through the rest of the body, it's fantastic because you can just do your work, and they aren't going to be walking around or dinking around or doing anything like that. So you can also use that to your advantage if a horse really doesn't want you working on a certain part of their body and food is going to help them get distracted, then you can use food. That's also another time that I'll put them in cross ties. So I don't put them in cross ties much, but if I know that I have to work on something and they're going to, use every tactic under the sun to get me to not work on it, I will put them in cross ties and get the work done so that they can go back to their life feeling better, faster. All right, so I hope that helps. In general, I don't like it when they're eating. It steals the moments from me of understanding what they like, don't like, and whether they're releasing or not. But I will use it strategically if I have to. All right, I hope that helps. See you guys later. Bye.